What's up, everybody? Smoove Cosplaya here, your favorite salsa dancing cosplayer, bringing you another episode of Smoove Rants. This is going to be the final follow-up to a video I did last year called Everything Always Changes. In that video, basically, I talk about how I grew in my fandom from being the guy who always gets, bent out of shape and nerd raging over the little changes that happens in movies, to the guy who still might not like changes, but he respects what happens. He understands that changes will always happen because nothing ever stays completely the same when it transfers from one medium to the other. So this one is going to be on the G.I. Joe movies. Speaking of G.I. Joe, I have with me my special guest for the night, my brother in G.I. Joe fandom, my brother in G.I. Joe costuming, Mr. Erik Neal. Erik, how you doing tonight, man?
Hey, Myron, it's great to see you. It's looking forward to this. Looking forward to sitting down and talking with a friend about one of my favorite things, G.I. Joe, and see, take this thing apart and see what's good and what's bad about it.
Ooh, let's do it, man. Well, we'll start, of course, with G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra. Now, just in general, how did you feel about that movie?
I am very conflicted about Rise of Cobra. Let me get this up front out of the way. I mean, it's going to sound like I hate this movie. I have a lot of criticism, a lot of critiques, a lot of gripes and complainings, but by itself, Rise of Cobra isn't a bad movie. It's a good sci-fi action movie in and of itself. When you look at it as a G.I. Joe movie, that's when it falls apart. As a G.I. Joe movie, it's terrible. They've ignored literal decades of G.I. Joe lore, G.I. Joe trivia, and they put together something that, while works as a good action movie, it doesn't really work as a G.I. Joe movie because, like I said, it just ignores so much about what made G.I. Joe great over the years.
Yeah, I agree. And so kind of to both talk about that and recap like my journey. By the time G.I. Joe The Rise of Cobra came out, I had been through the original X-Men trilogy. I've been through 2 out of the original 3 Transformers movies. So at this point, I'm done expecting anything to get done right. So I'm thoroughly like, okay, I didn't just leave my fanboy at the door. I left my fanboy at home when I'm walking through the doors at the theater. I was like, okay, they ain't gonna get nothing right, but let me just go in and enjoy this thing. So I think that did help me enjoy it. Like you said, if you look at it as not a G.I. Joe movie, it's a good action movie. The writing might not be good, but I say there's something to be said for not expecting certain genres that have certain levels of like writing, acting. Because like you don't go into a kung fu flick expecting good acting and good plot. You don't watch You Got Served for the plot. You watch You Got Served for the dancing. So on that note, I'm like, okay, I don't expect this to be too good. But like you said, ignoring so much of the G.I. Joe mythos, and it's just like, really, y'all? Should we even put G.I. Joe in the title at all?
It's like me and some other friends have talked. It's like, the way I see it is, and we came at the scenario where Hasbro came to Paramount, asked for a G.I. Joe movie. Paramount had this script laying around that featured accelerator suits and nanomites and all this stuff. Paramount looked at it and said, close enough, we'll slap a G.I. Joe label on it. And Hasbro said, sure. And they put this out thinking, it was good enough to be a G.I. Joe movie.
I mean, that's our story. We're sticking to it for now. I mean, that's about as good as I can come up with. So we'll go with that. All right. So I guess scene by scene, character by character here. So I think we started off kind of strong with Destro, that little flashback to his ancestors.
Mm-hmm. And you look at that when it talks about the history of Clan McCullen and how Destro's ancestor got punished for selling weapons to both sides, but they didn't want to kill him because that would remove the weapons he brought, but they're going to find some other way to punish him. That's lifted straight out of the comic books. The whole Destro's family history. That like you said, it was a strong start because that was spot on.
Yeah, and dude, I just caught something the other night. Like this week, I was watching some YouTube video and it was talking about the most notorious and most deadly Cobra villains from G.I. Joe. And I'm like, okay, this popped up on my feed, I'll bite. So they get to the Destro part. And of course they show that same scene. I've seen this scene several times, so I wouldn't think there'd be anything new in it. but for some reason it hit me different, and I realized that this scene, I don't know if it was done on purpose, and I might be giving them too much credit by saying so, but it reminds me of the scene in G.I. Joe the movie where Cobra Commander gets that second dose of the mutation spores. Because he's being held back by two people, they put in this, and something deadly is coming to his face, and I'm like, oh snap, did they really do that? And again, I might be giving them too much credit, I might be seeing what I want to see, but the scenes look very close to each other.
And sure, it might be coincidental, it might be intentional, but either way, it's a pretty nice callback. I actually, now that you mention it, that never occurred to me either.
Wow. So yeah, I'm like, with this, with G.I. Joe, X-Men, Transformers, they do these little things that let you know they could have done a better job.
It's like going on G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra is full of little references and callbacks. And they were paying attention, they were doing stuff like for example, the scene in Paris when Breaker takes Duke's last piece of bubblegum.
Yeah.
Little stuff like that says, yeah, they were paying attention, but the big picture is just, guys, really?
Right, yeah. Like, don't give us these little tidbits that let us know that you, at times, you can choose to pay attention and then just fail to deliver in these other parts. So like, don't do that to us.
Exactly.
Yeah. So speaking of Duke, I think he's the next person we get to see. What were your feelings on Duke?
Honestly, Duke is the thing I hate most about this movie. Nothing against Channing Tatum. I think he did a good job with what he was given.
Yeah.
But the thing is they made Duke an officer. They made Duke a captain or a major or something like that. And making Duke an officer fundamentally changes who Duke is and what he was.
Yeah,
it's like go back to the 83 in the original carded figure. You look at all the file cards that Larry Hama wrote, and Duke actually turned down a commission. Duke didn't want to be an officer. So said something about the file cards, said something about statement after declining commission, quote, if that's what an officer does, I don't want any part of it.
Yeah. So
you make Duke an officer, that fundamentally changes who Duke is. So that's Duke's one of the things they definitely screwed up in this movie.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny that the way you feel about Duke, I was doing a little bit more research after I watched the movies again. I think he feels the same way about about his role as we do. Found out that he did this interview with Howard Stern, I think, and he's on record saying he hates the movie. He says, I hate that movie. Like,
he does. If I've read some of the same interviews, some of the same comments he makes, and I think G.I. Joe was something Channing Tatum had to do, was part of a contract. And
right.
He doesn't have very many nice things to say about the experience at all.
Yeah, and this is more about that interview and not him and his role. But what really irked me listening to that interview was that Howard Stern kept referring to his character as G.I. Joe and not Duke. I'm like, no. There is no literal character named G.I. Joe. But, oh, Channing, you get to be G.I. Joe. No. Stop. Don't do that.
Yeah, and you're right. That was a little bothersome, but that's just a case of somebody outside the fandom who doesn't get it. So.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, I don't know. I really don't know. Sometimes you see somebody get cast as a particular character, and you're like, oh, I wish it would have been this person. He was wrong. It should have been this person. Even though I'm kind of meh on Channing Tatum being Duke, I really can't think of, I don't have an ideal Duke in my mind for some reason.
No, and honestly, Duke is kind of one of those characters that I think it'd be hard to cast anyway. It's So going back to just a little bit about me, for your viewers, is I'm retired Army. I did 20 years in the Army as a non-commissioned officer, and Duke being a senior non-commissioned officer, the first sergeant, that would have been like a tough role to cast anyway. Yeah. So I think Channing Tatum did good with what he was given. So honestly, I don't think it was terrible just from the fact that they made him an officer, and that's just that's just no good in my book.
Yeah, I like the phrase you just used. He did good with what he was given. I feel like you can apply that to pretty much any actor who gets put in a movie that got where it's a comic book, video game, whatever, turned into movie. So many of these people, they're just not given the right thing, and they did a good job of what they were given. They were just given crap.
Fair enough.
Yeah, like that's why I finally I'm not gonna spend too much time on this because I did a whole video on this, but that's how I finally forgave Halle Berry for messing up Storm. She didn't mess up Storm. The people who wrote that version of Storm messed up Storm.
Well, 100%. I mean, the actor can only do so much what they're given, and if they're given a bad script, then it's even the greatest actor on the stage today can only do so much with a terrible script.
Yeah. All right, so next up, I feel like we got to tackle Ripcord by himself, and also Ripcord and Duke as a team, because both of those got something wrong with them. So Ripcord by himself, how did you feel about that? Ripcord I actually thought was actually very kind of well done. I mean, as far as Marlon Wayans, again, he did pretty good with what he was given. Yeah. But there's just so much of the backstory and the history about Ripcord that they got wrong. I mean, go back to the original G.I. Joe character. Ripcord was an airborne infantryman. He was a paratrooper.
Yes. Nothing about Ripcord said pilot. But in the movie, he's a pilot, he's a licensed jet pilot, and I'm thinking, no, soldiers typically don't qualify as jet pilots. Nope. The one line when they're in the convoy talking about Ripcord telling Duke that we should transfer to the Air Force. No, that's not how the military works. Transfer to the Air Force.
Nah, you don't do that. Like, I mean, I don't know. Even with having like a bunch of family in the military, I don't know how that stuff works. But I knew enough to know that that's not how it works. You don't transfer branches like that.
Typically, if you want to transfer branches, you would have to serve out your contract. You would have to separate from the one branch. In the case of Ripcord, you would have to leave the Army, then re-enlist and re-go to basic training, and then pretty much once you're out of the Army, join the Air Force. You don't just transfer between branches like that.
Yeah, that was total sense. I was like, this don't sound right. And there's an article when I was kind of researching again, where they said it seems like Channing Tatum was getting paid by the minute or something, or they said, hey, you only have 10 seconds to get all these lines in, because that's how it felt. It felt like he reminded me of old me, because old me used to mumble and not enunciate. So he was talking fast, not opening his mouth a whole lot, and I'm like, dude, what did you just say? The movie theater wondering did you have to talk that fast?
Exactly. Yeah.
I feel the same about Ripcord. Like, Ripcord this is one of the types of changes that I don't really like so much. Other types of changes, like when you update things to be more modern, when you update things to change with the times, like, hey, this flew back then, but it's not going to fly now. Those types of changes I can roll with. When you just slap.
Like a good example is when you take the Punisher, you take Frank Castle from a Vietnam vet and make him an Afghanistan vet. Stuff like that to make it more contemporary, more present day. Exactly. Changes like that fit the times, that doesn't really bother me either.
Right. But when you take just a name and slap it on a random character, I feel like that's what they did with Ripcord. Like, I didn't really care about Ripcord at the time that I watched the movie, but the last 2 years, 3 years maybe, I've been going back and catching up on the G.I. Joe comics, because I grew up on the cartoon. I didn't have a good enough. I didn't have any allowance growing up to where I could consistently collect comic books. Like, I might have an issue here, and the next issue I get is like 20 issues later. I didn't keep up with the storyline, so I got to read I was reading like right when Cobra Island got created. Everything in between that, when Serpentor came about in the comics. So I got to really read what happened with Ripcord. Like, he had the girl he was chasing at the time, and she got caught up in things, and so I really got to know Ripcord then. So I didn't really care about Ripcord at the time that the movie came out, but I knew, like you said, that he wasn't a pilot. He was a halo jumper, right?
Yep, he was an airborne infantryman. Yep.
Right. So, like, you're just slapping a name on somebody. And And I don't think there's nothing that I've read that made it seem like they went for Marlon Wayans as like a diversity kind of thing. But as someone who wants more diversity in places, there were too many other characters that you could have made Marlon Wayans that could have got some shine. Like, why didn't we get Stalker? Why didn't we get? We could have got Doc. We could have got. Okay, maybe Iceberg wouldn't have fit, No.
But you bring up Stalker. I think that actually that character would have been a way better Stalker than a Ripcord. I'm thinking of watching the movie, and I actually thought this the other night when I was watching it to prepare for this. I'm like, were they trying to make him Stalker and just kind of messed up the name or something? I don't know.
Yeah, or with Marlon Wayans and his sense of humor, like he wasn't over the top Marlon Wayans, like. You're always going to expect some kind of humor from Marlon, but he's not as over the top as he could have been. Mm-hmm. Alpine would have been perfect because we know from Alpine from the cartoon, he was always joking back and forth with Bazooka and Quick Kick. So I'm like, that would have fit well too there.
Perfect. Yeah. So you talk about comics versus cartoons. I was kind of the opposite, where I watched the cartoons. Hey, they were cool and all, but I was straight up about the comics. I mean, you talk about Larry Hama writing the comic from when it was first picked up in '82 or '83, and that first run didn't end until '94. So you're talking about over a decade of comic books. And so right about the time, 91 through 94, when I was a teenager, I was out of toys, but I was seriously into comic books. So I was all about the stories. I was going back and collecting trade paperbacks and the little digest size comic books. So I'm the exact opposite, where the cartoon was fun and all, but the comic book was where it was at, because you had all this rich storytelling. You had actual weapons instead of laser rifles. You had like people actually died, and there were consequences. Not just, in the cartoon when the Rattler gets shot down by the Sky Striker, and every time you see a parachute, nobody ever died in the cartoon. There was no real sense of high stakes of possible loss.
Yeah, I'm realizing now that I missed out on so much not getting the comic. Like, I agree, like the comic is so much better than the cartoon. Like, I'm reading the comic nowadays, I'm like, man, I missed out on so much. This was legit, man. Like
you go back, one of the best things about the comic book is, segueing a little bit about Snake Eyes. You go back about the origin of Snake Eyes, and you learn that Snake Eyes and Stalker and Storm Shadow all served in the same unit in Vietnam.
Right.
So they were all, chewing the same dirt, running the same patrols, doing that kind of thing, and they got to be brothers. And that was more part of the reason why Storm Shadow invited Snake Eyes to Japan to train with his family anyway, because they were literal blood brothers that they saw combat. They were in war together. Yeah. And it's like the movie, when you have that whole bit where Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow were kids together, and it's like the movie, the writers just totally missed an opportunity to have this really cool flashback of Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow together in a combat zone.
Yes. This makes me, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. It makes me wonder if we have this, what came first, chicken or the egg kind of thing. Because, like you said, they screwed up his origin story. But then also, part of his origin story is his relationship with Scarlet.
Yeah. But
then now we have Scarlet being a love interest of Ripcord. So I'm wondering if they changed Snake Eyes' origin because they decided to have Scarlet go in this other direction, or if they had Scarlet go in this other direction because they wanted to change up Snake Eyes' backstory. Because, she's the whole reason he's got, I'm not blaming Scarlet by any means, but she's the whole reason he has the scarred face, the jacked up vocal cords in the comics and all of that. So if there is no Snake Eyes and Scarlet love interest, there is no, Snake Eyes got his face messed up.
And also you're playing with love interest there too in general, because in the comics, it was all about Snake Eyes and Scarlet. In the cartoon, it was Duke and Scarlet. Right. Then in the movie, you've got Ripcord and Scarlet. It's like, what notes, what series are they looking at?
Yeah, it makes me wonder, because there are some people who can't talk about Scarlet without talking about who she's supposed to be with. So I'm wondering if, and again, this might be too giving them too much benefit of doubt, too much credit. But maybe that was a jab at all those people saying, hey, you know what? Stop arguing about her being with Snake Eyes. Stop arguing about her being with Duke. I'm gonna just put her with somebody random so y'all can shut up.
And that could be it. I mean, that's absolutely it. And you talk about Scarlet. She's like a badass in her own right. Any rate, I mean, crossbow throwing stars. She was in. You look at the file cards, look at the comics. She was an intelligence analyst. Her job was intelligence and counterintelligence. Talking about how when she was raised in Atlanta, she was like a black belt by the time she was 6 because she trained in her father's karate dojo or something like that. I mean, look at Scarlet. She's like a badass by herself in her own right anyway.
Yeah. And then what do they do to her in this movie? She seems to be, at least from what I saw, too much reliant on her weapons and technology. Like, I barely saw any fighting skills from her. I mean, she could fight, but not to the level that we expected her to.
No. And I mean, there's that whole bit in the ambush on the pit when she puts on the stealth suit and then she starts fighting the Baroness, when you think for a minute that, yeah, maybe she can fight. And then out of nowhere, the Baroness throws like a bucket of oil at her, and all of a sudden she's out of the fight because she can't see through her suit or something,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did not do her any justice. I mean,
no.
I feel like, they got the look right. Rachel Nichols, I don't know if she acted anything before this. I mean, I knew her from ESPN. She was a reporter on ESPN. So I was like, oh, okay, she has a look that works. I don't think she did a bad acting job, but just they wrote her to not be as good of a fighter as she should have been. Like, really, that scene in the pit where Snake Eyes is beating the crap out of everybody, that was really Scarlet in the comics. She was the one training people. She was the one beating the crap out of everybody.
Mm-hmm. No, you're 100% right. It's and you notice that I don't think a lot of the female characters were treated too kindly in this movie anyway.
No.
You look at CoverGirl.
Yes.
In the toy line, the cartoon comic book, CoverGirl was a tank driver. She was a mechanic. She joined the army to get away from being a supermodel. And in the movie, they've kind of relegated her to being General Hawk's secretary. Right.
That was so wrong. And I was cool with the castings. Whoever, I forget her name, but she was a model, so that fits that. She was blonde originally, so that fits. But when you just make her the secretary, she deserves so much better than that.
It's like we were talking about Ripcord earlier. It's like they took a character and scanned a list of G.I. Joe characters, says, CoverGirl, perfect, good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see what else we got. That first battle scene there. So the aircraft that Cobra used, this was a perfect opportunity for them to make those aircraft look even remotely like anything out there. And they're just some random futuristic ships. I'm like, you could have even gone 90s and made them look like the Cobra Hurricanes, and they didn't do that.
And that's something that I think just in general, the design choices that the production team, the designers, the crew, just in general, Cobra was victim to some really bad design choices. You talk about the gunships, the Neo Vipers or whatever they were, didn't resemble any kind of Cobra troop we'd seen in 20 years of G.I. Joe. Destro was a guy in a suit. He really didn't look much like Destro anyway. Right. The Baroness looked like the Baroness, but didn't act like the Baroness, and the backstory on her was totally wrong. It's really the only thing they really got was, I like the look of the Baroness was good. Storm Shadow, with the exception of the origin story we already touched on, I think Storm Shadow they did a decent job on. Yeah, but as far as the rest of Cobra, and I'm sure we're going to talk about Cobra Commander later, that's just an entire bucket of what the hell.
Man, yes. So let me back up. So yeah, the Neo Vipers. Maybe we're saying they were indestructible because they're Neo Vipers, but I'm like, I don't remember any Cobra infantry, whether it's the troopers, the Vipers, even the bats were not unstoppable.
No, they weren't.
I don't remember the Vipers being bulletproof, being they were way too formidable. I'm like, or formidable. I don't never know how to pronounce that word, but yeah, like they were way too strong. Like, no, this isn't right.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. It's, I don't know what kind of armor they were using, if the nanotechnology made them indestructible, but like we just said, there was really nothing in any of the other, whether it's cartoon or comic books, that where there was no kind of Cobra Trooper that was that tough or that indestructible. As a matter of fact, the hallmark of the Cobras was that they were really just expendable throwaway bad guys that really, weren't anything compared to the GI Joes anyway. They were just hired thugs pretty much.
Yeah, they were just stormtroopers who maybe had slightly better aim, I guess. Yeah,
possibly.
Oh, Heavy Duty. Now, on one hand, I wasn't mad that Heavy Duty was in a GI Joe movie. But how are we getting Heavy Duty before we get Roadblock? Like,
that's not fair.
But nobody cares about Heavy Duty more than they care about Roadblock.
No.
Nah.
And Heavy Duty, that's another choice that I think was questionable. The character, perfectly solid. If you depending on what you're looking at, cartoon, comic book, Heavy Duty may or may not have been Roadblock's cousin. It's really not clear on that, but it's just, Heavy Duty was another odd choice, I think.
Yeah, and I think they nailed the actor, and then the voice and everything. Because I'm going off of, I don't think I've gotten to any issues of the comic where I've seen him in there. But when I'm going off of the cartoon, like, that was spot on with the cartoon, like the voice, the look, and all of that. But again, why not Roadblock? Nobody was checking for Heavy Duty like that.
No. And you talk about Heavy Duty, you talk about Breaker. This is something else that I don't know if this was a choice on the part of the creators to try to make a movie that they can market overseas. But all of a sudden you've taken the real American hero out of GI Joe and you turn it into this international thing. You've got Heavy Duty, this British dude. Breaker is this French Moroccan guy, and it's just, I understand what you were trying to do.
I think the only thing that really got right they got the communications thing right with Breaker, and of course the little, like we said earlier, the bubblegum thing. But yeah, him being French, and then him being upset that he couldn't go back to France. Like, nothing about Breaker says anything about. Nothing about Breaker says that that's a thing for him. Y'all just adding stuff on for no good reason. Oh, we hit on this a little bit, but that whole Duke and Baroness BS, I don't even know where to start with that one.
Reminds me of what's going on in the Star Wars universe, where it seems like everybody's related to the damn Skywalkers.
Right. Yeah, that was just unnecessary. And again, it spoils Snake Eyes' backstory too, because like, Cobra Commander had beef with Snake Eyes because he blamed his brother's death on him, even though his brother was the one who was drunk. Baroness blames her brother's death. Her brother's death on Snake Eyes, even though somebody else randomly killed her.
Wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah,
right. So it's just so they miss so much with that. And again, the actress, she did it. She killed what she was given, and she killed the look. She was the hot, evil librarian looking girl. I always think about that when I see the Baroness. I feel like some evil, strict teacher or librarian that you kind of secretly got the hots for.
No, and that's absolutely right. I think a lot of that thing, it's the femme fatale, the Eastern European accent, the black leather, the glasses. It was just that kind of a look. And it's and you hit the nail on the head. And while in this movie she got the look right, she didn't have the accent. She started off with a blonde. She was involved with Duke, and it's you nailed the look of the character, but you got literally everything else wrong.
Yeah. And then speaking of Baroness, going back to Destro for a second. Now, Destro sounded like he probably should have sounded being Scottish. Like, I feel like as much as we probably are used to how he sounded in the cartoon, and that's our Destro, he didn't sound like a Scottish person at all. I mean, he sounded like the black dude that he actually was. I mean, I just realized that same guy, Arthur
Burkhart.
Yes, I didn't realize he played Turbo in the GoBots.
Yep, he played Turbo in the GoBots. He did some other voices on the Transformers. I think he was the voice of Devastator.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
He was actually the voice of Stalker, also in G.I. Joe. Stalker was like his real voice.
Yeah.
And I actually met Arthur Burkhart at a convention a few years ago, and he told me that originally when he was doing the voice on G.I. Joe, he originally tried a Scottish accent, but the Sunbow or Marvel, whoever, didn't like it and told him to stop doing it. So he actually tried to do a Scottish accent.
Just be you, dog. Just be you.
What's that?
No. Just I figured they just probably told her, "Hey, man, just be you. Just be
you." Yeah. And he's a tremendous dude. He's really cool. Like I said, I met him at a con a few years ago, and he was really awesome to talk to. Really likes his fans. I remember this was a personal story of mine that I remember. Chris Latta, who was the voice of Cobra Commander, he's not with us anymore. And so, talking about the finest, we were there at this convention, and Arthur Burkhart was looking at us and saying, Chris would have been really proud of you guys, and I almost lost my shit.
Man, I would have, man. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Like, and
that was just one of those cool, interaction at convention with celebrity that, I love telling that story.
Yeah, and just sidetracking a little bit from the movie stuff. Like, I love that, whether it's Arthur saying that about us, Larry Hama always wanted to hang out with us. Like, it says a lot that they love what we do and they love their fans like that. That hits me right here.
Another, Morgan Lofty did the voice of the Baroness. She's really sweet. She's fun to hang out with. Greg Berger, who was Firefly, Spirit, and Grimlock. He was really. It's a lot of these actors. They love what they did, and they like interacting with their fans. They're really great people.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing. I think that's the amazing of doing what we do and still being able to like interact with the people who made what we do.
I mean, we wouldn't be doing what we do if it wasn't for them,
Right. It's just so surreal. Like, you never in your life would think, oh, I would get to meet and talk with, and not just get an autograph and get a picture, but actually talk and converse, geek out with the people that made this stuff. It's like if you went back and told 10-year-old me that I'd be at Dragon Con having a beer with Larry Hama and swapping army stories, I would have punched myself for being a liar. Yeah, that's you can't plan that stuff.
No, you can't.
But yeah. All right. So let's see. Where did we leave off? Back to Destro. Destro was a likable villain in the comics and the cartoon. This dude was a dick, for real.
Yeah, absolutely he was, yeah. And that's nothing against the actor. I like Christopher Eccleston. I'm a Doctor Who fan. I love what he did with the Ninth Doctor. But yeah, Destro in this was just, I like Destro. I think Destro is one of the things they kind of got right about this. Yeah. But it's just, he's completely different from what we've seen already. It was, I think this Destro was right smack dab in the middle between what we saw in the cartoon and what we saw in the comics.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing. So the costumes, I really feel like they suffered from the same thing that pissed me off about X-Men, going with this all black thing. Mm-hmm. Like, and really, you really couldn't tell them from the Vipers, because they were in all black too, and it's like there's no distinction,
And it's that, and we've already talked about how the Cobra was played with bad decision choices, but one thing that actually bothered me is if you look at the actual uniforms of the G.I. Joe characters, you can actually see a G.I. Joe logo in their digital camo. Like, the pattern is just digital camouflage with G.I. Joe all over it. And I actually paused the video and I looked at it like, are you serious? Yeah, like that was just another. Your camouflage is your logo. Seriously, guys.
And to make us have to look that hard for that, that's almost like with the Transformers movies. They gave us the transforming sound effect once, maybe twice in the whole series, and never again after that. I'm like, that should not have been relegated to just a little Easter egg. Like we are expecting that sound. We're expecting that G.I. Joe logo, and nothing.
Yeah, and it's that, and again, more bad design choices. I didn't understand why Snake Eyes had lips.
Are you familiar with Word Burglar?
Yes, I am.
Dude, there's his letter from Snake Eyes Part 3.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
He takes a jab at that. I did an interview with him. Maybe I think about this time last year. I got to interview him, and I was like, "Dude, please tell me that was a purposeful jab at G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra." And he confirmed it. I'm like, "Yes." I'm like, "I already loved you, man, but I love you even more now." The fact that was on purpose. Like that was part of the toy, but that's because a person actually has lips, and if you got cloth over lips, it's going to make it look like lips. But it shouldn't have been hard cast in there like that.
No, it's like somebody was taking a page from Joel Schumacher's costume designs from Batman and Robin for that one. Bat nipple, you got lips.
Yeah. Excuse me. That was just dumb.
That was just a bad choice, Snake Eyes lips, the G.I. Joe logo in the camouflage, the accelerator suits were just. I thought the accelerator suits were just hokey.
Yeah, like where in G.I. Joe is there anything? Because like I said, I came onto the comments late. Is there anything anywhere where there's accelerator suits somewhere?
Not that I recall. No, it's this is just again, it's a design choice that came out of nowhere.
Now, we haven't touched on Zartan yet.
Yeah, no, we haven't talked about Zartan. Zartan is one of those things with me that I can take him or leave him. I wasn't necessarily a huge fan of Zartan and the Dreadnoks, so honestly, I thought Zartan is actually one of the things that actually worked in this movie, believe it or not.
Yeah. They did a good job with him. He did exactly what Zartan does.
And I know, I don't remember exactly what the explanation for Zartan was in the comics, because again, that wasn't my thing. Zartan, I think, is one of the things that actually worked in this movie. It was, I'm not really, again, not a huge fan of Zartan, so I don't know the whole backstory of how he got his technology or whatever, but the fact that in the movie he was a master of disguise, he was a mimic, he could study people for 18 months and learn their movements, and just the fact that he could change his appearance was technology and stuff given to him by Cobra. That actually kind of worked for me.
Especially with the technology part. I'm like, how else is somebody gonna look exactly like somebody else, like in this day and age? Like that was a perfect explanation.
Because I know in the comics you talk about how he was using like holographic projectors, he was using all this other camouflage stuff, but honestly I think that was the movie actually did a pretty good explanation of that.
And then this dumb mess here, Brendan Fraser's character.
Oh God.
I found out that was actually just the director finding a reason to put him in the movie because he worked.
And it's funny because the director of Rise of Cobra is Stephen Sommers, who directed The Mummy with Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, and he looked more like Flint than the dude from Retaliation. So I'm like, is that Flint? But then the fact that we don't see him ever again is like, yeah, that wasn't him. I think he was. I looked it up, and he's Sergeant Stone from one of the newer iterations of G.I. Joe.
I missed all that. My internet just went out.
Yeah, no problem. So apparently he was this character called Sergeant Stone. So one of the cartoons that came out after like the last, I think the the Deke series from the early '90s. So like,
I want to say Sergeant Stone might have been from Sigma 6, but I'm not 100% sure.
that's probably it. That's probably it. Yeah, I don't think I caught up with any of those. So I think they were trying to do the same thing that Transformers did, like trying to do too much of a mix from old school and new school. Whereas like, I don't think enough people care about new school yet to where we even need to go there. And I might be biased because I'm old school, but anyway.
And I know I saw, Brendan Fraser rolls up in the training scene wearing a beret, and I thought, oh wow, is he supposed to be Flint? And I'm like, wait, Sergeant Stone? What? Okay.
What?
Yeah, that was definitely it was a thing. It was a thing that existed. I mean, it was a choice.
Yeah, and the only thing he does there is he's egging on heavy duty, like they're Joes. That's all he's there for.
Yeah, that whole Duke and Snake Eyes pugil fighting training. Nobody ever got a hit on Snake Eyes. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I got a bunch of other things for Rise of Cobra, but like nothing that's like super necessary. But like a couple of points, I want to say when Duke gets captured, right after they hit the kill switch on the nanomites, I feel like that's a callback to the Mass Device. So remember, he gets teleported away with the Baroness. He
totally gets captured, and then they take him back to and I think that's actually a fair point. I think that was totally a callback to every time Duke gets captured and taken back to Cobra headquarters.
Yeah, there we go. So
because they did that in the Mass Device, they did it again in the Weather Dominator when Duke and Snake Eyes got captured and had to fight in the arena of sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they show us they can do their homework.
Yeah, they can get little things right, but again, the big picture is a big bucket of what in the ass.
Right. Oh, speaking of another little thing, when Ripcord takes off in that Night Raven, so one, Scarlet calls him Ace at some point.
Yeah,
I could have made him Ace, and that would have fit.
Absolutely.
Ace was the Sky Striker pilot, right?
The Sky Striker pilot. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then when he ejects from the Night Raven, I just caught this the last time. I had to rewind it and pause it to make sure I was right. The helmet that comes out of nowhere when he ejects looks just like a Strato Viper helmet.
Yes, I caught that too. Yeah.
So I'm like, again, y'all put these little small things in there that let us know that you could have gotten this whole movie right if you wanted to, but you didn't want to, so you did.
And like I said, earlier on we were talking about, I gave this movie a lot of crap. I complain a lot. I nitpick it, but it's really not a bad film. It's not. Yeah. It's just, it was just one of those things that it's G.I. Joe in name only.
Yeah,
it really, as far as the overall picture, it doesn't really add much to the G.I. Joe universe.
Nah, not at all. Oh, so last thing before we move on to Retaliation. Did you not think that the person who eventually we found out was Cobra Commander or will become Cobra Commander, didn't you think that was Dr. Mindbender at first?
I thought, and yeah, that definitely gave a whole evil scientist, master of technology kind of thing. And when they called him the Doctor, I thought, is this a new take on Mindbender? And then you have the whole flashback when he's still Rex in the bunker, and then he meets Dr. Mindbender. And I remember the first time I saw it, I'm like, wait a damn minute.
How was this random pansy-looking dude Dr. Mindbender, and then the guy who we think is Dr. Mindbender is actually Cobra Commander? This little, I don't know, this little nondescript, nebbish-looking scientist comes out of the back corner of the bunker, and where's the mustache? Where's the monocle? Where's the bald head? They took a character. It's a G.I. Joe movie. They slapped a G.I. Joe name on this character and said good enough. Yeah, and it's like if you're not paying attention, you don't even know that it happened. Like I almost missed that guy was Dr. Mindbender. Like if someone had coughed, I would have missed it. Blink and you'll miss it. Yeah, exactly. All right, Retaliation. I like Retaliation a whole lot better. Now there was still some F-ups, which we're gonna get into. But like if Rise of Cobra was more like Retaliation, I probably would have liked it a whole lot better.
And again, Retaliation, while it still had its flaws, I think it went a long way to kind of wash the Rise of Cobra taste out of my mouth.
Yeah, I'm wishing on that. Yeah, and then they got who was it? This guy named Mouse, the sniper. That okay, maybe this was Sigma 6, maybe this was G.I. Joe Extreme, but I don't remember anybody named Mouse in there. I'm like, what?
It's totally not a character I'm familiar with. So again, I don't know if that's something they took from version of G.I. Joe that I'm not familiar with, or just something they made up straight for the movie. But I definitely don't recall any kind of free-running sniper dude named Mouse.
Yeah. So I'm like, stop making up characters and like give some shine to people we want to see in there. Like that could have been
You've got over a decade of action figures and characters to pick from. You couldn't have gone with Tunnel Rat or something like that?
Yeah. Now, actually, that free runner person, this is going to piss you off even more. That was Flint.
Yeah, no, I know that. Yeah, that was meant to be Flint. Yeah, the DJ Catrona, I think the actor's name is. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, no, nothing against him. He was just given a bad hand. Like he was a mix. I feel like he was a mix of a little bit of Comic Flint, because Comic Flint was a little bit of a jerk.
Yeah.
Cartoon Flint was kind of upstanding, maybe a little too jealous of Lady J, but still not in a dickish way. A little bit of Comic Flint and a little bit of G.I. Joe the movie Falcon.
Yeah, and I think you're right there. I think he was kind of a mix of Flint and Falcon. I think you're right there.
Yeah, and without the look, because they gave the look again. They gave the look to Brendan Fraser, but you look at him and you don't think Flint or Falcon. He would have been a generic army guy, basically.
Yeah,
who was way pessimistic.
Definitely a very forgettable character.
Yeah. I think the only thing that reminds me of Flint at all is the fact that he was that he was always around Lady J, and two, he had something slick to say about Snake Eyes at one point, because he was like, anybody else missing Snake Eyes? And that, now having read that cover of G.I. Joe, I actually got it upstairs in poster form, but where it's Snake Eyes and Scarlet walking through somewhere, and you see that sign that's laid down that says "Watch out for
minefield." Yep.
So that leads to this whole thing where Snake Eyes kind of goes undercover or whatever, and then when he finally comes back, Flint's like, "Snake Eyes, where you been? You could have told us where you were." And then Lady J punches him in the face for being so ungrateful.
Yep, I know. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
So that his comment about anybody else missing Snake Eyes gives me a hint that maybe they were trying to throw back to that, but maybe not. I don't know.
Possibly, it could be a thing. It's hard to say what they were thinking.
Yeah, but other than that, dude was just pretty useless.
Yeah. Well, you got to think. I mean, when you have 90% of the G.I. Joe team getting killed in the first 15-minute sequence of the movie, it's okay. Where do we go from here now?
Right. Now, that was I think there's another actual throwback in there when Roadblock has those like heat gloves or whatever, and he kind of puts he does the hole through the fence.
When Pythona in the movie was fighting through the fence with the monster to try to get
exactly what I thought of. I'm like, okay, I'll give y'all that. That was legit. Let me see. Then Roadblock. Like, overall, I love The Rock as Roadblock. There's a little bit of me that kind of has, there's people who are kind of mad that every person who's played Storm in the X-Men has been more of a lighter, I guess, tone Storm, whereas like, okay, she was made to be like this African goddess, but y'all keep picking these kind of mixed looking people.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
I kind of feel like that a little bit with Roadblock, but at the same time, I'm like, he looks like Roadblock though, as far as like just being super hot diesel and everything. I'm like, and plus, if you're gonna make Roadblock the star of the movie, who else better than The Rock?
Yeah, and you know, I like Dwayne Johnson. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a great actor.
Yeah,
And I think he did wonderful. You know, his performance is one of the things that I actually liked about Retaliation.
yeah,
But again, it didn't like something wasn't right. It didn't 100% feel like Roadblock.
yeah, yeah.
Something wasn't quite there. It was good. It was again close enough, but it's like the back edge of my teeth just didn't feel right.
It's something I can't qualify, and I always hating on something when it's something I can't quite put in words why.
But I mean, he nailed the look. He nailed the part. The sequence at the end when he literally picks up an M2 Browning and fires it from the hip and lays waste, that was perfect.
Yes, that was great. That was great. Like, because now they could have gotten that so wrong and given us rhyming Roadblock, which would have been cartoon accurate, but it would have been so just, I guess, distastefully bad, because you would have had people being like, okay, why are you making him sound?
Again, that's one of those instances when the comic is better than the cartoon, because we didn't have rhyming Roadblock in the cartoon.
Exactly. Yeah. Like Grimlock, like he wasn't comic relief in the cartoon. I mean, sorry, in the comics.
No, he was.
Yeah.
Grimlock was a killing machine in the comics.
Yes. Dude, so something I didn't catch until recently, like as I was just doing some more research, make sure I didn't miss anything. We had Xandar in this movie.
Yes, he was one of the Secret Service agents.
Yes, I totally didn't catch it, but it actually fits perfectly with his file card, because he was a person you never knew was there.
Yeah.
He lived up to that. I never knew he was there.
But again, it's one of those things where unless you're watching the credits, you wouldn't know he was there, because they never actually called him out as Xandar.
You know, they actually did, and only because I saw the credits, and I went back and watched it, did I catch that the president, and as Zartan as the president, literally calls him Xandar. But
I never caught that.
I didn't catch it until like my fourth or fifth time watching it.
Okay.
It's very easily missable.
Yeah, that totally worked, because you've got Zartan impersonating the president, and you've got Zartan's brother Xandar right there as head Secret Service guy. That totally makes sense.
Yeah, so they nailed it more than I give them credit for on that one. I was like, son of a gun, y'all did it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let me see. But then that makes me go, if you gave us Xandar, why not give us Zarana?
Yeah, facts.
Because we got Scarlet versus Baroness in the first movie, right?
Yes.
But then I think last year, it was during COVID, I read the issue where Zarana and Lady J fight.
Yep.
That would have been a good fight in this movie. But
that would have been a good fight. Yeah.
But yeah. So cool points for Xandar, but even less bad points for not giving us Zarana too, because we care about her more.
Yeah. And honestly, it's like I said, Retaliation went a long way to fix what Rise of Cobra got wrong.
They did.
The look is better. The costume design for Cobra Commander is 100% better.
Oh yeah. He
actually looks like Cobra Commander instead of that low-rent Darth Vader we got in the last movie.
Oh yeah. I mean, I kind of feel like that. Oh, I get why you're saying Darth Vader, because he has the little respirator,
the respiratory, and yeah.
I feel like they did a good job of doing his voice, because as much as we want this Cobra Commander, as much as we want that, I feel like that little Jigsaw John Kramer sounded voice fit a little bit better for what they were going.
It absolutely worked, because it's you've got this leader, he's still menacing, he's still growling, it's not citizens of the world, but it worked.
Yeah. Let me see, what else? What am I missing? Oh, going back to Flint actually being more like Falcon. The fact that Duke saves him and dies in the process.
Yeah, that's straight out from the animated movie. Absolutely.
Because we all know Duke was supposed to die there. Like, even the writers are on record saying, if you watch the movie with the sound off, Duke dies.
Yeah, and that's just one of those things where the reason for that was because parents reacted so negatively to the death of Optimus Prime that, hey, we need to do something because I don't think we can handle it if we kill off Duke too.
Right, we can't kill Duke and Optimus Prime. Like, that's
and you have that just one throwaway voiceover from Doc. Duke's gonna be okay. Really? Last I checked, you were pulling a snake out of his heart.
Right, or Scarlet saying he slipped into a coma. Like, you, first of all,
that guy's dead. That guy's dead.
Yeah, I don't think a doctor with the incorrect equipment could tell he was in a coma. So for anybody else to just randomly say, "Oh, he's in a coma," you buy it as a kid, but as an adult, like that don't pass the test.
Let's be realistic. A lot of the stuff we watch as kids is unwatchable as adults. Let's real talk.
You gonna poke holes in everything. Like, wait, how did Megatron blow a hole in the side of that ship and then nobody gets sucked out? Like, how did they catch up with the ship in the first place? Because we don't see Astro Train anywhere. Like, were they just hanging outside the ship the whole time? so much that we could poke holes in. Oh,
and getting back to Retaliation, we talk. One of the things that I wanted to touch on was Firefly.
Yes.
Now, I like Gray Stevenson. I loved him in Punisher Warzone. I loved him in the Thor movies as one of the Warriors 3.
Yeah.
But it just Firefly, I think, could have been so much more. They got the look kind of okay.
Did you catch his intro when he rode in on that motorcycle? That reminded me of Stalker coming in at the beginning of the Mass Device on that. I forget the name of the motorcycle, but it was the green motorcycle that had
the Ram
on the side. Yeah,
the Ram. Yeah,
he jumped off of it and then it like blew up through the fence or whatever. That was almost the exact same intro.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So then we also had that Hiss reference. I think it's not as easily missable as some of the other stuff was. Like, that one was kind of in your face. Hey, Cobra Commander, I think you're gonna like this. High speed sentry Hiss. I'm like, okay, they made sure we caught that reference. All right, then I may be biased because I'm a Wu-Tang fan, but I kind of like RZA being Blind Master.
No, perfect. I'm right there with you. I think that was very well done.
Yeah. And then Jinx. Now, this is before Elodie Young was Elektra in the Netflix, but I was like, okay, I think she was my new crush for a little bit, and then it got worse.
Definitely RZA and Elodie Young, they did good with what they had. It was the whole mountain sequence with Snake Eyes and Jinx and the Red Ninjas jumping off the side of the mountain, rappelling, kicking dudes off the mountain face. That whole sequence, I think, was pretty good.
Yeah, it was over the top and ridiculous, but in a way that you loved it. I'm like, I don't care that this is over the top. I'm good with this.
See, that part felt like G.I. Joe. That was some Roof of the World, Sea of Ice, G.I. Joe and Cobra fighting over a piece of the Weather Dominator. That felt like G.I. Joe.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, and then they actually had the Ostriker in that one.
Yes. Yep,
so,
caught that. Yep. You had some All Strikers. You had the Hiss tanks, which were fairly decent. You had a Water Moccasin that wasn't bad.
Yeah, because I think they made it look like a cross between a Water Moccasin and a whale, because it had the two fans on the back, but it was too small to be a whale, and it also didn't have the big the inflatable part of the hovercraft. So yeah, it was more of a Water Moccasin, but it was a little
bigger than Water Moccasin, but it was still it was kind of accurate.
Yeah. And then speaking of accurate as well, Lady J lived up to her MO, the covert operations, because she killed that red.
That whole when she was sneaking into the party and dancing with Zartan as the president, that whole covert ops kind of thing. Absolutely.
Yeah. What did you think of Bruce Willis being Joe Colton?
I love Bruce Willis. He's one of my favorite actors ever. I think he killed it as Joe Colton. He's easily my favorite. Yeah, I think Bruce Willis killed as Joe Colton. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. That was a good. I was like, when I saw that he was going to be in it, I was like, what is he going to do here? Like, whatever he's going to do, he's going to kill it. But then I found out, Joe Colton, like, yeah.
That whole sequence when Lady J's driving the El Camino, and she comes does that 180, and he kicks down the tailgate and starts lighting dudes up.
Yeah,
he's like, "You okay?" She's like, "Yeah, you okay?" And I'm fine. My cholesterol's a little high. I love that bit.
And I love what she did when they rescued the president. She was like, "Okay, you're threatening to kill him. I'll shoot him first." Mm-hmm. And I love that the president was like, "Hey, yeah, it's okay. You saved me. It's just a flesh wound. I'm good.
Yep. No. That's like I said, flawed, has its issues. Definitely a lot better than Rise of Cobra, though. Like I said, the whole ninja on the mountain sequence is great. The whole just yeah.
Now, I feel like I know the answer to this already. I know we got the Snake Eyes origin movie coming up. I feel like I know your answer already, but give me your thoughts on that.
Honestly, I think it's going to be a perfectly fine, pretty good, standing on its own martial arts movie. As far as a G.I. Joe movie, I think it's going to miss the mark. That's just me. I think they've got literal decades of G.I. Joe lore that they're choosing to ignore for some weird reason or another.
Yeah, like, so there's, on one hand, I feel that way, then on the other hand, I'm like, knowing that Larry is a lot more involved in that than he was with the other one. Like Larry literally had to talk them out of having Snake Eyes speak. So, like, knowing that he's got his hand deeper in this one, there's a part of me that's like, okay, trust Larry. He's going to do something good with this. But then I also see how, part of Snake Eyes' thing was that he was somebody who never should have been a ninja. Yeah, became one. Like, so, your average, 6'2", blonde hair, blue eyed white guy ends up being a more deadly ninja than the guy who's supposed to take over the clan. Mm-hmm. So with him being Asian, it's like, okay, that's just. I'm not gonna be like, oh, they just got it wrong, but more like, how are they going to spin this? Like, I'm interested to see what they do with this, because like that's already erasing a bunch of other backstory.
Yeah, because my take on it is Snake Eyes is just one of those things where he's supposed to be a mystery. He's supposed to be a question mark. And I think if you delve too far into his backstory, you might be taken away from the character.
I gotcha. Yeah.
And we're also going a long way from, you think about 1982 when G.I. Joe first came out, when you're talking about an action figure that wasn't giving any paint applications as a cost-cutting measure. Yeah. And here we are 40 years later, and he's, one of the, if not the most popular character in G.I. Joe. So that's weird how we've come that far.
Yeah, very, very weird. Yeah. And, going back to the whole backstory thing, I'm wondering if it's, just another case of we're trying to update it for modern times. Because, like, he and Storm Shadow originally were, like we said before, together in the Vietnam War. We're too far in the future to hit that. Similar to how I gotta wonder how they're gonna pull off Magneto, and when they pull the X-Men back into the MCU, like Magneto was a Holocaust survivor. Yep. How we? Because he was already old by the time we see him. So we're past the point where we can have it be that his origin is a Holocaust survivor. So how are we gonna? They're gonna do it somehow, but it's just like, so how are they gonna spin this story to actually still have the same significance, but also be up to date with what's happening now?
Yeah, and it's like I said, I'm hesitant. You mentioned earlier, I'm a little more optimistic now that Larry Hama's on board with it and taking an active role in it. I think I'm going to go. I'm still going to see it because obviously I'm a whore for G.I. Joe. Yeah. It's just one of those things where I'm going to go into it with kind of an open mind, hoping for a fun summer action popcorn flick, and I'm not going to try to think too much about it.
Yeah. And again, y'all watching at home, that's really what, that's the same thing I've come to do when it comes to anything that gets turned into a movie. Like, I need to turn my fanboy off. Not to say that you can't not like something. It's okay to not like a change. It's okay to not like that this person wasn't as good as you thought they should have been. But, you know, it doesn't make sense for us to see these changes and be like, you guys should have done this, and sending them, you know, especially in the days of now where we got Twitter and we got access to these people, access to these writers, access to these directors. You know, don't go out there sending death threats because somebody got your character wrong. Don't do that. Don't do that. You know. But yeah, that's really to kind of wrap up this video and also the whole thing, that the whole series that I've been doing. Yeah, just, you can not like your changes, you can not like that this didn't happen, but ease up off the vitriol, ease up off the venom. You know, take it for what it is, enjoy the movie, keep in mind the things you don't like I did, and move on. That's it.
And something to think about, just to, you know, as a final thought is, you know, ultimately, if it gets new fans interested in the franchise, if it gets kids playing with G.I. Joe toys again and gets them to turn off the switch of the PlayStation, then I think it's a good thing. It might not be for us, but you got to think about the next generation of fans, the kids who don't know anything about G.I. Joe, and maybe Snake Eyes Origins, maybe Retaliation, maybe Rise of Cobra is what brought that new fan into G.I. Joe, and now they're all in like we are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's gonna do nothing but bring them in. And one thing I've had to do, especially with Transformers, I had to learn to respect that everybody came in at a different point. So if people treated us the way that some of us treat people when they come into these new parks, we might not be fans, you know. So it's okay if your Bumblebee is a Camaro and not a Volkswagen Beetle. I gotta be okay with the fact that that's your Bumblebee. Now I'm gonna give you some crap if you shit on mine, like, because I joked about this before. You ever seen kids react?
Yes.
So there's a Transformers episode.
I actually watched your YouTube video, and I watched where you were talking about the kid. But Optimus Prime wouldn't have a gun. Excuse me?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where I'm like, I have to respect that his Optimus Prime looks different, but you need to respect that this Optimus Prime, who did have a freaking gun, made it possible for you to have the Optimus Prime that you have. So I don't care if you don't go back and research. I'm cool if you don't take any interest in the old stuff. Like, I don't have any interest in watching the Dragon Ball series. I know enough about it, but I'm cool with being Dragon Ball Z on. But I'm also not gonna crap on Dragon Ball, if that makes sense.
And you know, I mean, I've got two kids. My daughter is 16 and my son is 14. And I remember when they were little, when Rise of Cobra came out, when Transformers the movie came out, I actually broke out all of my old G.I. Joe DVDs, all of my Transformers DVDs. So me and my kids sat and watched them. And they appreciate the classics. They love the classics. But at the same time, we see the new stuff. And that's something that, while it might not be for me, that's something that we can kind of all enjoy together because it's new to all of us.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, y'all watching at home, that's what we really need to get. You know, those of us who are old school, we gotta make room. Yeah, make room for the new school. We gotta learn that, hey, be okay with it not being for you. Just be okay with it that is there, and that makes that fandom bigger. All right.
Not to mention the fact that just because something new comes out, that doesn't mean that the stuff you liked isn't there anymore.
Yeah, you know? It doesn't destroy the old.
Yeah, so Snake Eyes Origins isn't for me. Okay, big deal. I can go back and read my old comics. I can watch my old cartoons. You know, the stuff I liked is still there. The new stuff doesn't negate or invalidate that in any way.
Exactly. So Rick, before we cut out of here, man, anything you want to say? Anything you got coming up you want to plug? Anything like that?
Well, honestly, you know, I just retired from the Army, kind of getting back into the whole civilian life thing. You know, trying to get back into the swing of things. Just started my Twitter back up. You can follow me at Guy in a CC Helmet on Twitter. Should have a YouTube channel coming out soon. Working on that. But honestly, really, the only thing I'm really prepping for is DragonCon 2021.
Bruh, same here, man. I will probably. I've gone back and forth with it. I am probably going to be lightly attending. I'm probably just gonna come see you and the rest of the finest crew. Probably either like say, hey, meet up for lunch or something, maybe whatever the meetup is. But other than that, I'm probably not gonna, because I'm of the mindset of Dragon Con isn't the, if it's not the normal chaotic geeky ratchetness that we're used to, it just ain't the same. So I'm kind of like, I just want to wait till next year when hopefully it's not having restrictions.
Well, I'm kind of seeing it as, I'm going to take the paid time off. I'm going to take that weekend off and go to Atlanta anyway. And if Dragon Con's there, then it's there. And if not, I'm going to find something else to do.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, I'll be fringe participating because I need to see y'all. I need to get something geeky and costuming in my system.
Facts. I got a couple new outfits I'm working on, so we'll see if I can get those done in time. See what's happening. So,
amen to that. So y'all, make sure y'all go follow Rick. Go be on the lookout for all of his amazing costuming stuff. Is it a Sonic Viper you got coming up?
I got Sonic Viper coming up. I'm actually working on a Baron Zemo costume right now. Yeah. Working on Zemo. I got a couple other things coming down the pipe, but we'll see what happens.
Cool. All right, well, y'all be on the lookout for that. Y'all have a good night, have a good time, whatever con you're going to next. Please hit that like button, that subscribe button, that share button. Again, do all of that for Rick, Erik, because I keep pointing in the wrong direction. Every time I do this,
I'm on this side. Yeah, I'm on this side.
All of that. So do all of that, and y'all stay safe out there. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.